بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. So just as a reminder, we'll continue with our series of going through reflections of the ayat of Siyam in Surah Al-Baqarah. As we said, there are only 5 ayat, so few ayat. We did the first 2, so just as a quick reminder, from the first 2 ayat, we took first and foremost the importance of the intention, to have the intention of the fasting of Ramadan, as well as understanding the objective of fasting, which is taqwa, that we become more God conscious. From the second ayah, we talked about that these are very precious days, so we should not waste any time in those days. They're few and limited in number. We talked about Allah's mercy subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we continue to understand what we're doing in Ramadan. Now in the third ayah, very quickly, and I'm just going to cover the first piece of the ayah, inshallah, given the time. Allah says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. We're just going to stop there, inshallah. So Allah says, the month of Ramadan, شهر Ramadan. So first and foremost, it's actually the only month mentioned by name in the Qur'an, which gives you a sense of how sacred that month is and the importance of the month. That's the only month mentioned by name in the Qur'an. So Allah says, شهر Ramadan. And then when I ask you about Ramadan, what's the first thing that will come to mind? You're going to say that's the month of fasting. So, alhamdulillah, people are honest. But Allah says that's the month of Qur'an. So the way Allah actually defines the month of Ramadan is not the month of fasting. Allah says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. That is the month that the Qur'an was revealed in it. And just very briefly, because that question comes a lot, people say, how do we say that the Qur'an was revealed in the month of Ramadan, when we know that the Qur'an was revealed over 23 years, correct? So the scholars have 2 major opinions. One opinion is that it started the revelation in Ramadan. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ means that it started the revelation in Laylatul Qadr in Ramadan. The other opinion, which more scholars subscribe to, is that it was revealed from Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz to the skies, and then Sayyidina Jibreel started basically descending upon Prophet Muhammad over the 23 years. But regardless, Allah says that that month is when the Qur'an was revealed, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. And then Allah explains to us something very important, and that's what we really want to focus on today in those just 1 or 2 minutes, inshallah. When we think of the Qur'an, the real question we should have is, what's our relationship with the Qur'an? When Sayyida Aisha was asked about Prophet Muhammad and his relationship to the Qur'an, Sayyida Aisha responded by saying, كَانَ قُرْآنًا يَمْشِي عَلَى الْأَرْضِ. The Prophet Muhammad was actually a Qur'an walking on this earth. And in another narration, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآن. The Prophet Muhammad's character was the Qur'an. So when we hear the month of Qur'an, we hear Ramadan as the month of Qur'an, we talk about our relationship with Qur'an, we need to ask ourselves, how frequently do we engage with the Qur'an? As in, we actually read it daily, we read it weekly, we just read it every year in Ramadan. So what's the frequency of our relationship? But actually more important than that is how do we allow the Qur'an to impact us? Is it just that we're trying to read it, but we don't understand much? Or we're just trying to do some of the tajweed ahkam, but we don't go beyond that. Because Prophet ﷺ was the Qur'an walking on this earth. So you need to allow the Qur'an to impact your behavior. So Allah actually explains to us in that specific ayah, Allah says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. Allah doesn't say just something for you to read. Allah says what? هدى للناس. Guidance to all mankind. Guidance to all of mankind. So the Qur'an is guidance. How can you be guided if you don't allow the Qur'an to impact your actions? It's not just something that you read. It's not just something that you use in our prayer, which is very important. It's very important to learn the Tajweed rules, but it's something that should impact our behavior. And that is Huda al-Irshad, because we have in Surah Al-Baqarah, Huda al-Muttaqeen. We won't go into that just given the time, but this is guidance that it shows the right path from the wrong path. Now you can choose whichever path you want, but the Qur'an shows us the right path from the wrong path. Now hopefully we choose the right path, and this is how we understand the continuation of the ayah. Allah says, هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ, which shows the right path, وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. So as you're on that path, The Quran will give you very clear signs so that you can continue to be on that path and continue on your journey. And the Quran will be very clear to distinguish between what's right and what's wrong. That's the Furqan piece of it. Again, one of the explanations of the scholars. So again, the Quran, as Allah explains it, Ramadan is the month of the Quran, and the Quran is guidance to all of mankind, and it gives us on our path, in our journey. We ask Allah, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, on that journey, on that straight path. It helps us throughout that path with very clear signs that show us what's right from what's wrong. So it's just a reminder for myself first and foremost, and hopefully for everyone here, to increase our relationship with the Quran, to continue to make sure that as we read the Quran, we try to understand it. As we understand, we try to reflect on it a bit. And then as we reflect on it, we really allow it to impact our actions. So let's, again, we have, subhanAllah, time passes by. We started our series 2 weeks ago. It was the beginning of Rajab. Now we have entered the middle of Rajab. So we only have a month and a half. So we should start from today, inshallah, to increase our relationship with the Quran, try to understand it further, and allow it at least impact one or two of our actions. Or at least before we make decisions, we ask, will that be something that aligns with the Quran? Which is basically the path that Allah has crafted for all of us. Is this something that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And I know that ICI has launched, I think it's called Power Up campaign for Ramadan, where you can actually read Quran and basically enter how many pages you've read. The goal was 100,000 pages in the 2 months. Actually, no, I think it was 10,000. You guys can do 100,000, but I think the goal was just 10,000. And I think you're on track for hitting those 10,000. So as you're reading, make sure you also visit that campaign. Log it, set as a community, we encourage each other to read more and understand the Quran better. May Allah make us people that actually memorize the Quran and implement the Quran in our life, and make us be like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Qur'ans that are walking on earth. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا واسرافنا في امرنا وثبت اقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذرياتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما. ربنا اغفر لنا ولاخواننا الذين سبقونا بالايمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين امنوا ربنا انك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم انا نسالك من خير ما سالك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين، اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين، اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين. اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان، وارزقنا عبادتك فيه على وجه الذي يرضيك عنا.